The German school system is complex and sometimes hardly to understand for a foreigner. I want to show you how flexible the system is and that you don't need to worry about the degree in the first instance, as you have every chance afterwards. The school system in Germany is a matter of the federal states. But we have typically three kind of degrees that are named according to the schools. These are the degrees of the Hauptschule, of the Realschule, and of the Gymnasium. Additionally, next to the A-level of the Gymnasium, there is a technical A-level. My example is based on North Rhine-Westphalia, as North Rhine-Westphalia has 5 types of schools, while other federal states have fewer ones and fewer mixtures. So wherever you want to go to in Germany, you have to ask there how the schools are named and what kinds of schools there are. But with this you will have an overview of all 5 typical kinds in the school. I will not have a look on schools for special needs, so-called Förderschulen, where, for example, students are that are blind. These are also in every federal state, but are not mentioned in here. And even at that Förderschulen, you could make different degrees. After a kid is born, the parents care for the kid. And they even can give it to a day nanny or into a kindergarten or kita. It is recommended to send your kids to kindergarten at least at the last year before it goes to school. Here it learns some social skills and just basics for the elementary school, like holding a pen, writing on the line or drawing inside the lines, using a scissor and similar things. The Grundschule lasts for 4 years, only in Berlin and Brandenburg it lasts for 6 years. At the end of the Grundschule you get a recommendation what the teacher think would be the best next school, secondary school for your kid. Depending on the federal states, these recommendations are more or less mandatory. Now we go to the different school types, where the end is a graduation with a name for the Hauptschule, Realschule, A-level for Gymnasium, or a technical A-level. Let's assume you got a recommendation and you agree with it to go to the Hauptschule. The Hauptschule was invented in 1960 and it was a development of the former Volksschule that only lasts until the 8th grade. At the end of the Hauptschule, the student should be able to start an apprenticeship. So typically in the past, if you want to become a worker, a craftsman, the Hauptschule was the first option to go to. In 1965, the Realschule was developed. The roots go back to medieval times. For example, knights' schools were such schools where the focus was not on studying later, but get everything you need for your actual job. As a knight, it was also dancing and fencing and sports and writing. But in 1965, it was more about better education than at the Hauptschule. Typically, whoever wants to become a clerk started at the Realschule. In some federal states, there is a Sekundarschule. And this combines the Hauptschule and the Realschule. At the end of the Sekundarschule, you can either get a graduation of a Hauptschule or the graduation of a Realschule. With the graduation of the Realschule, no matter if it's done on a Realschule or on a secondary school, you can also go to a Fachoberschule. This is a technical grammar school, and you can get a technical A-level, so you can afterwards study at a technical college. You could also go to a gymnasium. The Gymnasium, the grammar school, is very old, and the basic is to prepare the students to study. In some federal states, there's also a Gesamtschule. The Gesamtschule combines all three kinds of schools, the Hauptschule, Realschule and the Gymnasium. And in the Gesamtschule, you also can have all three graduation, sometimes even the fourth graduation of the Fachoberschule, depending on how good you are. And very often in a Sekundarschule or a Gesamtschule, you could also mix up the difficulties in the subjects. So if you are better in one subject, like math, you could have the difficulty you would even learn at the Gymnasium, but while you are less good in another subject, you are just in the basic course, what would be the difficulty of a Haupt- or Realschule. I showed you the different types of schools. Now I will show you the flexibility in between. This is about the graduation of the schools, so you know Sekundarschule and Gesamtschule offer all three kinds of graduation here. You first start in the Grundschule. Afterwards you get your recommendation. Let's assume the first recommendation is for the Hauptschule. Your kid goes to the Hauptschule, makes a graduation of the Hauptschule, and usually afterwards will start an apprenticeship. The dual apprenticeship is very special in Germany. Apprenticeships are done everywhere, not only at the craftsman in Germany. So no matter if somebody checks your car, is an electrician, is a baker, is a hairdresser, goes to an office and assists to a lawyer or a tax advisor, or even in the mayor's office. All of these are apprenticeships. The nurse in the hospital, the midwife, all of these are apprenticeships. And at the end of your apprenticeship, when you got your certificate of apprenticeship, you almost could go also to a Fachoberschule to get your technical A-level. Or after some years of work, you also can go to a school for master craftsmen or technicians, or for trades there are the Fachkaufmann, it's a kind of a master in a trade, and you can become a master or a technician of your craft, your trade, where you are. With your technical A-level or with your master or technician, you could also start to study at a technical college. If you're recommended to go to a Realschule, afterwards you can start an apprenticeship. Some apprenticeships require a Realschule. For example, if you want to make an apprenticeship in a bank. You also can move on to make your technical A-level at the Fachoberschule, or you can go to a Gymnasium if you're good enough and move on to get your A-level. If you go to a Gymnasium and get your A-level as a graduation, you afterwards can also start an apprenticeship. Mostly the apprenticeship, if you have an A-level or a technical A-level, is 1 year less than if you don't have. But also with your A-level you can directly go to study at a technical college or the university. And even if you are at work after your apprenticeship and you want to get a better degree, there are many options to do this. Schools in the evening, Volkshochschulen and so on. And above I will give you the link to my own experience in the flexibility and my own example how I walked through many different types of school when I was young. Here you see the graduations of the German people. 28.6% have a graduation of a Volks- or Hauptschule. About 30% have a graduation from the Realschule or the former Polytechnical Oberschule, that was a type in GDR. And about a third has an A-level or a vocational A-level. Only about 4% have no school leaving certificate. As these numbers were the numbers over all Germany, today the numbers switched a bit. More than half of the students leave with an A-level, another 5 to 6% leave with a technical A-level. About a quarter leaves with a graduation of the Realschule, and 15 to 16% leave with a graduation of the Hauptschule. Only about 1% leaves without any graduation. And while the most important way of moving on afterwards in the past was the apprenticeship, nowadays it's nearly equal, and in the last year there were a few more students who started in her first semester than people who started an apprenticeship. This might be related to the unique aspect of the German apprenticeship, as in many other countries they only know to study at a college or at a university to get a certain certificate for work, while in Germany most important was the apprenticeship. And so nowadays, when there are fewer apprentices, the crafts, the trades worry about their skilled workers, as they need good apprentices to do the work. Here in Germany there is no big difference in being a craftsman that learned his trade or being a student, a bachelor, a master, whatever. It's very cooperative and everybody knows he needs the other one. So if you think about moving to Germany, raising kids in Germany, don't worry about the school so much. I hope I could show you afterwards you have any options to move on in the education, to move on in the job, to move on if you like to study. This is no big deal in Germany. The best school for your kid is probably in the neighborhood. While there are some schools with a special focus, some special focus on music or arts or language or science or sports, even those schools are almost around your home. So where the friends are, that's probably the best school for your kid. This was the first overview about the German school system. More content will follow where we go into deep into the German education. If there's anything you'd like to know, write it down in the comments. Thank you for watching and see you next time.